Beeville TX Community Mapping Project. My name is Rebecca Vasquez. If you've never heard of Beeville, it's about 5 hours away from Odessa. It's between San Antonio and Corpus Christi. My sister lives in San Angelo, and that's about a 5-hour drive from me. So it's probably the closest I've ever gotten to Odessa is San Angelo. So I'm kind of far away. So Beeville is the county seat of B County. It is not terribly big. It's about 12,500 people. So and I've grown up here my entire life. My concept of it was that it's such a small town that it really doesn't have that much. It has more than I thought. There are some limitations, but there are more things than I thought. Coastal Plains Community Center, which I have taken my child to use their services. It's an MHMR. They have everything from a pediatrician. They have, well, I mean, the pediatrician's more for prescribing. You have anxiety pills or bipolar. And you have counselors, and they had way more than anything I've ever used for my child. But I loved the staff there. They were so courteous. They made it, it was just so much easier to do something like that. Where I still have some of those people on Facebook because they were, even though they're not in my child's life anymore, they still like to know like how's she doing, I love that. And that's a small community. That's the beauty of a small community. There are some annoying things, but that's one of the beauties of it too, where people I still care about what's going on. I didn't know about the Texas State Aging and Disability Service, and the way it appears is that if you wanted you need assistive technology, either as a minor because you're born with an issue, or if you became disabled as a grown-up, they have these resources for people. So, and I was really amazed at the wealth of resources, everything from visual disabilities, the whole gamut, they have it. We have a Head Start. It's called Ayala Head Start. We have a Vineyard, which is it's a nonprofit. It is a religious organization, but they do a lot for our community, and we do have a low socioeconomic demographic. One of our biggest limitations, and I've felt it as a parent, is we have one psychiatry office that actually addresses minor issues. So minors is under 12, right? Or under 18, I mean. And so I've sought outside second opinions outside of Beeville, because the one psychiatrist in town is the one the schools contract with. Apologize, I don't know why I can't talk all of a sudden. And he gave my child a ADHD diagnosis back in 2nd grade, and by 4th grade I knew that was so far off the mark and I couldn't get anywhere. So I traveled 45 minutes towards Corpus in a little place called Portland, found fantastic psychiatrist down there, and she diagnosed my daughter with nonverbal learning disorder. And I still take my daughter there weekly to visit one of the therapists in that office, and he's amazing with her, absolutely amazing. Night and day. She goes in cranky, comes out blessedly beautiful and happy child. So that is a limitation if Beeville only has one, because then you can't go out and seek a second opinion. You can't, people who don't feel like they have a resource, that's the one they got, then they don't have the knowledge that they can go out and do something else. They can get someone else to help them out. That you don't always have to agree with the one opinion that you find. I was surprised with the community mapping index, where I found 15 businesses here. I did not expect to find that many. Some of them are franchises that have a national policy that determine that yes, they have to, even if a local business doesn't want to, that's part of their national policy. Whataburger's one of those places. Walmart's another, but Walmart, shady. Let's not talk about Walmart. Shh. Can't find anybody. One of the best things about a small town is that people, and people who own their own business. And that networking is a fantastic resource for little ones growing up in this community, because the individuals I know who own businesses, they already know my child. They think that she's so polite and she's sweet. So when she becomes of age and she's trying to look for jobs, she has that much more of a backup system, because they already know her, and then they know me. So there's things that the communication's already there about accommodations, that things that she needs help with. And because people know each other, we take care of each other. So that's one of the benefits of a small town. We may not have as many resources or psychiatrists here, but we do have that sense of community that bigger locations may not have. I want to talk about skills to pay the bills. And it is a fat little book. Let's see if I can do this without falling apart. I still need to hole punch it and put it in a binder. This is one of the few things I decided had to be printed out. Had to. had to. It's when we did part 3 of our project, it was talking about not only identifying characteristics of individuals with disabilities and what accommodations do they need in the workplace. And when I was doing some research to kind of get myself some more information, they were talking about soft skills. And I did find some other stuff, some other resources talking about, you know, what kind of soft skills are and why they're so important. And it was talking about, Sheaf was one of the gentlemen I was reading, and he had quite a few things. And it was, well, you know, we have hard skills. What are the skills that help you complete a task? Okay, well, that's why they usually hire you. But how do you keep a job? Our soft skills. Mind you, I'm a correctional officer at a federal prison. I used to be a teacher, but working in corrections has been a very interesting experience. There are adults who have very few communication skills. Very few. But we always talk about communication as a life skills. That's something that, you know, is social skills. A child doesn't have that, so we already know a special needs child needs more help with that. I like the skills to pay the bills, and I want to talk about that more, but it's probably the best resource that I found, really and truly. Because as a parent, I'm already using it. So if I'm using it as a parent, what a wonderful thing for teachers to do. I think it's user-friendly. I'll look at lessons and they already, whatever supplies you need are there. And there's basically 6 soft skills that Sheaf was talking about, and then that led me to the ODEP skills to pay the bills. So soft skills of communications, enthusiasm and attitude, teamwork, networking, problem solving, critical thinking, and number 6, professionalism. And I would definitely suggest this resource for anybody as an educator or as a parent to use for a child with special needs, so we can get them prepared for the work world. As a personal reflection, I'm a mama. Golly, how lost I felt. I've had a fight for my kid. I've been lucky though. I have 3 family members in special education. My mom was a speech pathologist. She's retired. My sister has been a special education teacher, and we're talking about she's done everything from severe and profound to resource teacher and inclusion and back again. My sister-in-law, thanks to my mom, introduced her to my brother, but she started out as a, I believe a deaf and ASL teacher, became a speech pathologist, diagnostician, and I think is working towards her special education director certification last time I talked with her. So I have this wealth of resources. How many families have people like that, where when I'm really thinking like they're not doing right by my child, I'm about to go into an art, mama's putting on the armor, grandma's coming, grandma knows what she's talking about, and y'all are not gonna like what we're gonna have to say. Do right by my kid. And that passion, because I know what it feels like to be a mama bear, that makes me a different educator. Because when a parent's across the way and you see the anger, I'm like, girl, I got you. I know exactly where you're coming from. Because if it's not right by your child, and we know our children, when people disregard parents when we leave, we know our child. It's not a good thing. We gotta be a team. Another personal motivation for me is that my daughter has been diagnosed with nonverbal learning disorder. And I have found one other parent who has raised somebody with NVLD. And it just happened to be a former coworker who I saw at the doctor's office just like a week ago. And she had adopted and raised a niece. And we were talking about the logic where she'll say something. So there's the communication where you're trying to guide someone, you know, and you think they're too old to be guided through certain logic, but the logic is, neurons are just not firing. So they need a little bit of guidance so that way they can see certain things. We worked very hard in my family to make sure my Bianca has a great sense of humor, that she understands sarcasm. You know, we'll say like, nah, that wasn't a good joke. Or like, high five, that wasn't awesome. You had, double entendre in there, you got some irony, fantastic child, and it wasn't offensive. Because that's something that, in that logic, to be able to differentiate between humor and serious, it's a line that she's so confused about. But how many people actually understand that? I have to be her advocate because it's not something that TEA recognizes as a qualified issue. So they have labeled her emotionally disturbed just so she can get some services. So I know that's my personal motivation, to make sure that she's going to be okay. she has brains. She's an amazingly smart child. She's spoken in metaphors, and she says some things, and you're losing vocabulary, and I know she gets so much, but there's a few things with the nonverbal learning disorder, the OCD, the anxiety, some logic, the social skills, and she'll sit and think, like, she'll say, I'm a bad child. I'm like, no, you're not a bad child. She's like, you know, so much is my fault. I feel this guilt. I feel this shame. Like, no, we don't have enough answers to figure out how to help you, and we are. I mean, your family is helping you figure those things out, and you're smart enough to kind of give us some communication so we can kind of keep troubleshooting. And of course, you know, I am going through divorce. Her father's not helping with some of her behavior issues and making it worse for her. And when she's having these outbursts that have been affecting school, where she's had to come home, affecting her and my household, because, quote, they never happen in his house. You know, I keep asking, how do I help my child of mine be an adult? She needs to be, you know, she's 13. In 10 years, she's going to be in the workforce. You can't throw a tantrum at work and expect to show up the next day. They won't let you. You know, I want to, that's my motivation for all of this. That's my personal reflection, honestly. This child of mine, I got to make sure she's going to be okay. And to gather Team Kid, Team Bianca, to make sure that everybody who's going to help her is involved and actively doing as much as they can. I will take advice. There's no way I can know it all. So, like, even today, I was bothering the poor counselor going, oh, what? Oh, so you don't have their schedules yet. The computer's messing up. Here's my number. If you can figure it out, she needs to know before Monday. I want her to have a map. I want to have where we can walk to every room, because if it's showing up on Monday, you know, I'm absolutely having kittens here. My sister works at the school, and she had texted me right after that going, chill, because I have first period off. I'm taking your kid to school on Monday, and I will walk her around and make sure she has that. I will make sure, even if they don't get the computer working by then, we have a game plan. I'm like, okay, I can feel better. Believe me, we've already had about a good hour conversation trying to calm down Bianca about the building anxiety about school starting on Monday. You know, it's new, it's bigger. She only had one hallway before. Now there's, you know, the main hallway, 3 attached to it, a giant gym, giant cafeteria. Everything is much different. Already, found Aunt Mary's classroom going, this is your haven. If something happens, she's going to have snacks. She's going to have your meds if you forgot your meds in the morning. But we have a roadmap. And I didn't have a roadmap at the beginning of this class. I felt very lost. I felt very worried about so much of this stuff for my kid. So I really loved this class. I have a roadmap. It's beautiful. It does make me think that if I could, I don't know how you could condense this much information, but condense it into like a basic handout to give to parents who may not have my stubbornness in locating information, or the resources that I have to be able to share that with others, going like, you know, we have so many resources in our community. There's so many businesses that will be that are more than willing to hire someone who is autistic or learning disabled or handicapped. You know, something to share with other people, because it's wonderful. And our community is so small, we really don't have too much of that. The one thing that really stands out is this goober. This fat little thing that's going in a binder. It's being, or so I'm already using it, because I'm practicing on my Bianca. And I've kind of blurred some of those 6 skills I talked about. They blur with each other. To me, they do. The lines are very blurry, because critical thinking and problem skills are very much part of the communications problems that she has. So, you know, they have, you know, one of the lessons in here, and they're all so user-friendly, talking about, you know, when something, you know, let's say she messes up with the dishes and they're grody. I don't know how you got some caked on stuff on there when you were scrubbing, but okay, you say so. So the question is, you know, is it what I'm saying to you, is it feedback or is it criticism? You know, where she can kind of like pause, and what someone else may be able to do and her brain doesn't naturally do, train her brain to push pause and go, was that criticism? Was that feedback? And then I started giving her some options on and I tried to keep it to 2, but it kind of developed into 3. One of the options was be quiet and let yourself think. You don't always have to have the answer right away. And, you know, sometimes you don't need to say anything. You know, you just don't. Sometimes it's kind of hard for adults to do. The second option was to clarify and ask that person, were you giving me feedback or were you criticizing me? Because sometimes, you know, we even I will misunderstand someone at work, and I'll go and ask one of my coworkers going, so-and-so just said this, it was really rude. And they'll say, they're like that with everybody. And for me, I'm like, okay, well then, I don't need to take it personal. But to kind of guide her through that, you know, where she can clarify that with someone like, well, were you giving me feedback? Were you trying to be mean? And someone can actually say, okay, yeah, I'm being mean, and she can, you know, decide then how to handle that. Or if it's feedback, going, okay, so I need to work on this a little bit more, okay, you know, to understand that they're just trying to make her, cause feedback is only trying to make someone do their job better. It's not to criticize. A third option, of course, is to ask somebody else. Just like what I was talking about a minute ago, like you can go and double check with, you know, if you're in a classroom and somebody said something, you can double check with one of your friends, you could check with the teacher, you can wait till you get home and ask your big sister, was I wrong in thinking they were being offensive? I stayed quiet because I was like, and I was thinking on it. And it's really, those three things are to push pause and to help her critically think through it. And it'll actually help her kind of like cool off a little bit before she responds. And, you know, I really like how it kind of flows over with each other, where the critical thinking skills go straight into communication. But I also think that with the networking, that's part of communication skills, and being a team player is part of communication skills, and the way we talk to ourselves and the way we talk with others affect our attitude. So if we can critically think about if someone's responses was trying to be feedback, that does affect our attitude in the workplace. So I do feel like they blend all over with each other. One of the lessons I found in here for attitude was you have these little cards, and you have these questions you ask them, and the cards are all about failures. But you have, you know, how, like, I think Abraham Lincoln went up for election 7 times and failed all 7 times before he got anywhere. And it's just kind of like put that out there where you're talking about these people that we feel are successful representation in our history, and look what they were dealing with in their own life. Like, they met with failure and failure and failure. So I like that as an activity, just to kind of open up, you know, someone's eyes who needs a little bit more soft skills. Like, how can we adjust our own self-talk? Like, okay, I feel like a failure. Nobody likes that feeling. But maybe that's just a normal part of humanity. We're gonna fail. And to not stop, to not give up. So I do, like, that's the one thing that stands out. I really do like that, skills to pay the bills. I suggest that to anyone. And I think because my child is higher order, she can do so much. She can work on grade level. She just needs some guidance and social skills and some communication, some logic, and she'll be fine. And she'll have those skills. So definitely very impressed with this course and how much I was able to come together and figure out, how do I help my own child transition into adulthood, how can I help the school, and look at all the stuff that I know that out in my community exists, so that way I can do what's right for her. I love it. So that was the Beeville, Texas Community Mapping Project, and yeah, have a good one.